right, welcome everyone. We're so glad you could be with us today. We are here to talk about early detection of forest invasives. We're going to talk a little bit about a new project that we're undertaking, as well as some participatory science opportunities in the Midwest region that you might want to learn more about and hopefully take part in. So my name is Michelle Beloskur. I'm the director of the Midwest Invasive Plant Network, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Angela Gupta, University of Minnesota Extension Forester, with Julie Crick, Natural Resources Educator for Michigan State University Extension. Julie's also involved with the Eyes on the Forest Sentinel Tree Network and the Priority Plant Patrol. And we also have Matt Wallrath, an outreach specialist and the Wisconsin First Detector Network Coordinator with the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I appreciate all of them being here and sharing their programs and involvement in this project. So our goals for today are, again, to introduce you to this new project, Prevention and Early Detection of Invasive Plants in High Priority Forests of the Midwest. This project is funded through the USDA Forest Service. The funding is provided through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and more specifically, this is a high priority Regional Invasive Species Projects grant. So we're going to highlight some resources that are being developed by this project that might be of use to you in your work with invasive plants. We're going to provide an overview, or my colleagues are going to provide an overview of the Midwest participatory science programs that exist in Michigan, in Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and share some opportunities and ways for you to get involved. So a little bit of information about this project. It's a 5-year project. I'm excited about that. I think there's going to be a lot of capacity for us to get things, make a lot of progress. We just started the project this year, and it's going to run through 2028. One of our big goals is to survey 30,000 acres for forest invasive plants. So this is really, as the name would imply, an early detection project, because as we know, when we can detect invasive plants early, we have the best chance of actually, containing or sometimes even eradicating them from these high priority forested areas. We're also going to be offering virtual and in-person educational events. So like you're experiencing today, we'll be doing some virtual webinars, probably a couple each year. And then if you are in one of our project states of, again, Michigan, Minnesota, or Wisconsin, there'll be some in-person educational opportunities as well. Angela's going to talk a little bit about some of our work with underserved communities through this project. As we know, there are communities that are very dependent on high quality forest systems for, economic value, for cultural value, and for other purposes. So we want to make sure that we're engaging with those groups and giving them opportunities to be involved. And then finally, we're hoping to work towards some harmonization when it comes to invasive plant regulations across the region. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide here. So as you may know, the Midwest Invasive Plant Network, or MIPN, maintains a list of all the invasive plants across our region. And when I say our region, it's the states and the 9 states as well as the province of Ontario that you see in the map here. So we keep track of all of the plants that are listed as invasive in each of these states and provinces, and which plants are regulated. And we're in the process of updating that list. So if you go to this website, you will know, you can be confident that all of the links that are on that page are now up to date. So if you click on links for Minnesota, you're going to find the most current list of invasive plants and what's regulated in that state. And then for the Woody Invasives of the Great Lakes Collaborative, that's another initiative that MIPN is coordinating. This website is, as the name implies, specific to woody invasives. So you can find a lot of information about 28 different woody invasive plants, including how they're regulated across the Great Lakes region. So it's a little bit different than the map you see here. It also includes Pennsylvania and New York, but all of those links have also been updated. So if you need regulatory information on any of these woody invasives that are known to be in our region, you can find that information there. So we're taking all this information now that we're updating, and we're going to use that to develop some some publications, some materials, so we can showcase how invasive species are regulated across the Midwest and Great Lakes region, and then share that with government staff, invasive species council members, and similar entities so that we can have a conversation. We can kind of engage with them, try to identify some barriers to regulation, and support efforts to bring our Midwest states into greater regulatory consistency. And we've already been doing some of this work. MIPN's provided comments on Wisconsin's NR40 rule change, which is currently underway. And we've also been able to provide some input on the invasive plant assessments taking place in Illinois right now. So we want to continue this work and continue to do more throughout this project. And then this will be my last slide. Again, I mentioned we're going to be doing webinars throughout this project period. This one's kind of an overview, right, of our project and some of the opportunities. And then going forward, we anticipate having some webinars that are more focused on like identifying and effectively managing forest invasive species. Oops, I skipped there. And then the last thing that I'm pretty excited to share is we're going to be developing customizable field guides to obviously forestry invasive plants. And these will be available to, municipalities, SISMAs, CWMAs, other natural resources professionals. That's kind of our target audience for these. And we're going to be creating the pages, and then you're going to be able to kind of tell us which pages you want, and we can assemble a guide that's specific to your state, your volunteer group, whatever might be beneficial to you. So very excited about being able to roll that out. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to go ahead and move to Angie's slides. And Angie, go ahead and take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle. Yeah, so I'm talking to you with work on this project out of the University of Minnesota Extension, and we are framing all of this under the Terrestrial Invasive Participatory Science, or TIPS projects. And so these are projects in which we engage the community to use participatory science to address critical issues in invasive species. We've been doing a variety of participatory science projects related to invasive species since 2020. And so we're really often looking to detect invasive species very early, sometimes even to inform policy. We've worked to answer a lot of complicated questions. I can say more about that if there are questions in the chat. And then to address community needs. And so we can bundle all that together and then hopefully not only look for terrestrial invasive plants as early detection, but also help develop resilient communities and engage communities. So if you could go to the next slide. Awesome. So in 2024, we have a number of priority species that we're working on. And so calorie pear, I know for many people in the region, this is not considered early detection, but here in Minnesota, we have no current reports of calorie pear naturalized. So we didn't think we had very many even planted in the state until we made some unfortunate realizations. There are more out there than we realized. Currently, they're all cultivated, so they're tended. But we are actively looking for, right now, because they're in bloom, asking folks to report calorie pear to iNaturalist to better understand what our risk and where to prioritize early detection survey work for natural areas. We're also going to be looking at purple loosestrife and biocontrol to engage people in updating our records and making sure biocontrol is getting out where we need it to and not having to put it where it's already established. So really looking at that using EDMAPS and EDMAPS Pro. Then we'll also be looking for jumping worms. Those are relatively new to the state. That is, of course, not a plant, but we're going to be looking for it in Southeast Minnesota forests in conjunction with the different grant funding. But excited to do that. And anytime we're out there in the forest, we're also looking for other terrestrial invasive species, including early detection invasive plants. And we do a lot of co-messaging in Minnesota. This project, through bills, the bipartisan infrastructure law, is also supporting a part-time Hmong educator to really engage participatory science within that targeted community, who we understand are active users of our forests, and they're out there often foraging and using our woods for many things. Would really like to better engage them in this terrestrial invasive plant early detection effort. And so we're going to do that through participatory science, so working with the community to really do community science, targeted terrestrial invasive plants, and really looking forward to that. The position has not been posted, but my fingers are crossed it will be by next week. So fingers crossed. And then not really related to this project exactly, but how I am viewing it as invasive species prevention is some additional work Extension, University of Minnesota Extension is doing related to climate ready woods. And we are doing 4 participatory science projects this spring for that. And that is looking at how we can make resilient woodlands for our future with both understory plant recommendations and tree recommendations. And so that's exciting work for us. It's relatively new. Next slide, please. All right, and so if you wanted to know where these things are, this would be the QR code. You can Z-link that. Here is the things that are happening right now that are able to be registered for it. I don't have the Climate Ready Wood stuff because that felt a little tangential. I'm happy to drop it in the chat if there's interest. And so this is a kind of a new way in which we're registering and tracking participants, but you can go to our website and access those projects in that way. Next slide, and I think I'm done. Yep, so I will yield the floor.
Thanks, Angie. I'm here with from MSU Extension to talk about the Priority Plant Patrol, and that's Michigan State University Extension, just in case anybody's confused about other MSUs. So the Priority Plant Patrol is a program of the Michigan Eyes on the Forest and Sentinel Tree Network that was created in 2016 in order to focus on the early detection and proactive awareness of invasive forest pests that were yet to be detected in Michigan. Those were the Asian longhorn beetle, the hemlock woolly adelgid, and the spotted lanternfly. We've detected both the hemlock woolly adelgid as well as the spotted lanternfly at this point in Michigan, and now we're just trying to stop its spread. We thought that would be a perfect place to kind of house the Priority Plant Patrol, just because now we're monitoring invasive species from above with the insects and then below with the invasive plants on the forest floor. And so you can find them all housed on one website. Again, we're looking at early detection and rapid response for both the pests as well as the plants in Michigan. And then in Michigan, we have CISMAs, we call them, Cooperative Invasive Species Management Areas. And they are grant-funded organizations in most cases that cover multi-county areas. And so they're really boots on the ground looking for invasive species and in some cases treating invasive species that are out there. And so in true extension outreach fashion, this program is meant to draw attention to those CISMAs and sort of expand their outreach message within forest invasive plants. Next slide. And so our species list was born out of the Michigan DNR's Terrestrial Invasive Species Coordinator. They sort of work closely with those CISMAs with what's actually happening in Michigan. What are we looking at? What are the major problems? And what do we expect to be problems here into the future? And so the 5 lower, or the last 5 are actually herbaceous plants, and they're kind of listed in a zigzag fashion in the pictures there. So we have Himalayan balsam. We do have it in a couple of spots in Michigan. Eradication is underway. Japanese stiltgrass, lesser celandine is in a few spots in Michigan, and we're actually working with the mid-Michigan CISMA as well as some conservation districts as they try and pinpoint the location of the original infestation of that lesser celandine. It's a plant that actually has seeds that can float. It works its way down waterways. And so they've been enjoying some paddling in this spring weather, sort of going upstream looking for that original infestation in order to be able to treat it. And then we have mile-a-minute weed, which is more of a problem in the lower peninsula for us right now, as well as butterbur, which is more of a problem in the upper peninsula right now. And so you can get involved by visiting the Michigan Eyes on the Forest website. We have a Survey 123 app that can be downloaded to your cell phone. And thank you. And be able to use the Survey 123 app on your phone, or you can go out and hike and then walk, report directly to the website. So there are directions that are provided. What we're really looking for is for you to log the distance that you've hiked for areas that you've hiked. And that would be sort of like more open park-like areas where you might see some of the invasive priority plants. And then to let us know if you've detected any of those plants. Now, we really hope that most of those detections are negative, and don't be discouraged if they are. In fact, be encouraged. The negative detections are actually extremely helpful to the SISMAs so that they know where people have searched and where they do not need to search. And so keep negative detections coming in. It's actually a good thing. We don't have any upcoming events in the immediate time frame that are not part of a registered conference. But if you would like to set up an event in your local area, please get in contact with me. I'll coordinate with the SISMA and we'll make that happen in Michigan. So thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you for all the other folks here today. And here we are in Wisconsin. So my name is Matt Wallrath, and I represent the Wisconsin First Detector Network here. We serve all of Wisconsin with the sort of work that's happening not just in ag fields, but for the stuff that's in natural areas and state parks and whatnot. So that QR code will take you to our page. Next slide, please. So what I do here is help community scientists to get on the forefront of getting out in the field with good information and good techniques for doing ID and also control. So website here will bring you to my tools page. Next slide, please. And in this page, you can see one of our tools, the Invasive Species Calendar. So if you want to get out and do work in your region in the Midwest, you might want to know what you can see. And so Pac-Man here will tell us what's up as far as is Pac-Man hungry or is he munching around? So these circles as they come in is the degree of detectability, and the color is based upon the life stage, as you can see. And you can also make a list of different months, species, forms, and habitat, so that you can have a good list of things to go out there and look for in your searches. So you know that maybe you can't see Bishop's Goutweed in January, but maybe you can see garlic mustard very strongly in April. So those kind of things are very helpful for us to share with folks in this region so that you know what you're doing for work planning. Next slide, please. We also have a WISTIP viewer, the Wisconsin Shared Terrestrial Invasive Plant Presence Viewer. So this is a combination of EDMAPS records that we put together with various reports, also from our professionals at the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and other people such as tribes, to say, what have you seen recently? What has been reported? And therefore, you can make a decision about what you're searching for in your area. And so if you're a community scientist and you see something that's in a neighboring county that you might be concerned about, you can make sure to see if you see those reports. And hopefully those reports will pop up in EDMAPS as well. Next slide, please. So part of what we do is train people on how to use EDMAPS to report things. And I know that the University of Minnesota recommends that, and the whole Minnesota program as far as how they do their reporting. We do have upcoming invasive species days that we're going to do demonstrations. So these will be days that we're doing woody control and high quality forests. So come visit us in Ashland to look at a Prentice Park and how we're doing some buckthorn control there. Also in Green Bay, we're going to be at the Triangle Hill Chalet along a bike trail doing buckthorn and honeysuckle control. So if you join us on those days, you can see the 1 year after effect of herbicide treatment with different techniques on the species of interest. And you can also see the rates and the techniques that are used in a live way. So we'll teach you how to do stuff and how to actually do it on the ground with either basal bark or foliar or other ways that you can take care of these species. So look ahead to bookmark these things. We're getting registration set up right now for this coming season. And thanks to University of Wisconsin and Mark Renz for these sort of things, and I am happy to take other questions and be a resource for the SISMAs that were mentioned earlier, and also to just get information out to people that want to do this kind of control work and plan events. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Angela. Right. So it's kind of a short and sweet overview of what we're working on. So now we have lots of time for any questions. So if you haven't had a chance to drop a question in the chat, please feel free. You can do that right now. And thanks to everyone who dropped in the chat and let us know where they're joining from today. It's always fun to see where everyone's coming from. And let's see, our first question, it says, are there efforts in regulations for what can be distributed from garden centers? I saw my local nursery selling Japanese barberry. Yes, so yeah, I think we've all experienced that pain of seeing some of these plants that we know are problematic still in circulation. While that's an important aspect, it's not specific to this project. This project is more working at kind of the state regulatory level and trying to make sure that states are aware of what one another are doing, how they're regulating things, identifying barriers to consistency. So that's more the primary focus of under this particular grant. Okay. Matt, I think you had also commented in the chat. Do you want to expound on that at all?
Yes. So in Wisconsin, so we have 3 states here, and we're all different, and that is definitely a challenge, and that's part of what we're planning to think about in our 5 years, is how this actually will work across boundaries. In Wisconsin, we have NR 40, which is a rule that states what can and can't be sold in particular in the state. Japanese barberry is a restricted species, so you can have it on your property, but you can't legally sell it. However, the provisions at the time made it so that there are some exempt cultivars. So if you visit the barberry page that I'll put up in a minute, if it's said to be a certain listed species of cultivar, those are developed by landscapers and nursery centers, and they're not considered as invasive or as troublesome. Now, of course, that's up to debate and contention. However, they are allowed to have some small amount of cultivation happening. And if it's not that listed species, if it just says Japanese barberry, that is illegal in Wisconsin. So I would say that, you're welcome to take pictures of stuff that you see and send it to the people that in your region that take care of this kind of stuff to check. Here in Wisconsin, we have the Department of Agricultural, the DECCAP, the Ag. I'm not going to say it right now, but they have a licensed inspection program. So if you sell over $500 of plant material a year, you are inspected for this kind of violation. And it happens that people, especially across boundaries or right across from another state, will do this on accident and sell things that are not legal. So you can let people know, and maybe even let that person know at the nursery center, like, are you sure this is a legal plant? Because if it's illegal, you're not doing your customer a good service. We want to do what's right for the environment and what's right for what you can and cannot legally sell.
Okay, and I think Angela, you commented as well about Japanese barberry cultivars being regulated on the Minnesota noxious weed list. Is there any, did you want to say anything more about that, or did Matt cover it pretty well?
Yeah, Matt covered it pretty well. I dropped in the link if anyone wants to see it. In Minnesota, 26 cultivars of Japanese barberry are regulated as restricted, and so that has a specific meaning. But right, it is variable across the states, right? And enforcement can also be variable. I think we do a pretty good job of that in Minnesota, but it's a challenge. And I think the green nursery industry stores are actually better regulated than like online sales. So we've been thinking a little bit more critically about that. I don't know that a lot of people are buying Japanese barberry specifically online, but that is a vector for other invasive plants. So anyway, we are this project that we're talking about today is hopefully going to try to help make this easier to understand. We don't necessarily have the ability to influence state law, so there is that limitation, but we are trying to work collaboratively together to make this make more sense across the region.
Yeah, and I would just second that too, that each state has their own process as well for how regulatory decisions are made, and some of them are more streamlined than others, so sometimes that's a factor. But I think, yeah, and I see a comment here that Michigan seems to lag in neighboring state, right, relative to neighboring states. And that's, again, part of the reason that we want to do this project, not necessarily just because of Michigan, but because we see that across the region, and we'd like there to be greater consistency, because it does make it easier for, I think, everyone to understand how to think about some of these plants and which ones should and should not maybe be used in the landscape. Okay, let me scroll down a little bit and see here. Oh, and Matt summed it up pretty well. Like I said, it's complicated. I think that's well said. All right. Did we have, I don't see any other questions. We can give it just maybe another minute or so in case anybody has any final thoughts. And while we wait on that, I'll just again thank everyone for being here today to talk about this project. You can see all of our names, affiliations, and websites are on this final contact page. So if you need to get a hold of any of us, please feel free. And if you have any questions that come up after the webinar, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat, and I'm more than happy to answer questions or direct you to anyone else who's on this call. Okay.
All right, folks, last chance. Ask that juicy question, type it into chat. You can even unmute. Or actually, no, you can't.
Any final thoughts from any of our presenters?
Appreciate y'all coming today just to learn a little bit about what we're doing.
And I will second that. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks everyone again for being here. We appreciate your time and your interest in this topic, and hope you have a great rest of your day.